Every day, prices change, markets move, businesses grow or disappear. Jobs are created, others vanish, and behind all of it, there's a system. Massive, complex, constantly shifting, and most people assume someone is in control. A group, a system, a plan, because something this large and this interconnected must be managed, right? There has to be someone pulling the strings, making decisions, setting direction, keeping everything in place. But what if that assumption is wrong? What if the economy doesn't work like that at all? What if the system we think is controlled is actually something else entirely? This is what if, and here's who actually controls the economy. At first, the answer feels obvious. Governments, they pass laws, set tax policies, control spending, they influence industries, regulate markets, step in during crises, so it feels like control must start there. Then there are central banks. They set interest rates, manage inflation, control how much money flows through the system. When the economy slows, they try to stimulate it. When it overheats, they try to cool it down. That feels like control too. Then there are large corporations. They employ millions of people, produce goods at scale, shape entire industries. Their decisions affect supply chains, pricing, and global markets. And then there are investors, allocating capital, funding startups, backing large-scale expansion, deciding which ideas grow and which disappear. So when you step back, it looks like control is concentrated at the top, a network of powerful entities making decisions that shape everything below them. But the economy doesn't just respond to decisions, it responds to behavior. And behavior isn't centralized. It doesn't come from one place, it comes from everywhere. Because every time someone spends money, they're signaling demand. Every time they save, they're reducing it. Every time they invest, they're shaping future growth. And when millions of people make decisions at the same time, those decisions don't stay small. They compound, they spread, they turn into trends. And those trends start to move the system. Not because someone ordered it, but because people reacted to incentives around them. Take something simple. Prices. They don't rise because someone decides they should. They rise when demand increases or supply decreases. If more people want something than there is available, prices go up, not by choice, but by pressure. The same applies in reverse. If demand drops or supply increases, prices fall, and no single person controls that. It's the result of thousands, sometimes millions, of individual decisions, layered together. The same applies to jobs. Companies hire when they expect growth. They slow hiring when they expect uncertainty, not because they're told to, but because they respond to conditions. And those conditions are shaped by behavior across the system. Consumers, businesses, investors, all influencing each other. In real time, there's also incentives, because every part of the economy is driven by them. Consumers look for value, lower prices, better options. Businesses look for profit, efficiency, expansion. Investors look for return, growth, opportunity. Governments look for stability, employment, sustainable growth. Central banks look for balance, inflation control, economic momentum. Each group is making decisions, but none of them are acting independently. They're reacting to each other constantly. A company raises prices, leads to consumers adjust spending. Consumers reduce spending, leads to businesses cut production. Production slows, leads to hiring changes, and that feeds back into the system again. It's not a straight line, it's a loop, a continuous cycle of cause and response. There's also expectations, because the economy doesn't just move based on what's happening now, it moves based on what people believe will happen next. If people expect prices to rise, they spend faster. If they expect a slowdown, they hold back. If investors expect growth, they pour money into markets. If they expect risk, they pull back. And those expectations don't just predict outcomes, they create them. Because when enough people act on the same belief, the system shifts in that direction. Now scale that across the entire system. Millions of people, thousands of companies, global markets, all making decisions at the same time. Some based on data, others based on instinct, some driven by long-term strategy, others by short-term emotion, fear, confidence, uncertainty, and all of it feeding into the same system at once from every direction, and suddenly it becomes harder to point to control because what you're seeing isn't a top-down structure, it's a network, a constantly moving system where influence flows in every direction. And this is where the idea of control starts to break down, because no single group can manage all of that. Governments can set policies, but they can't force people to spend. Central banks can adjust interest rates, but they can't guarantee how people react. Businesses can plan for growth, but they can't predict every shift in demand. Investors can allocate capital, but they can't control outcomes because too many variables are moving at once, too many decisions happening simultaneously. And when that happens, the system becomes less predictable, not chaotic, but not controlled either. So what we call the economy isn't something that's directed, it's something that emerges from decisions, from incentives, from interactions between millions of participants, all acting in their own interest. At the same time, it's not built from the top down, it's formed from the inside out. At this point, something else becomes clear. It's not about control, it's about influence. And influence is always moving. Consumers influence demand, businesses influence supply, investors influence growth, institutions influence conditions, but none of them hold that influence permanently, because influence shifts with behavior, with sentiment, with change, and the moment one part of the system moves, everything else begins to adjust. So the question isn't just who controls the economy, it's deeper than that. It's about how decisions are made, how incentives are structured, and how behavior spreads across the system. Because the economy isn't a machine with a single operator, it's a network. And maybe the real answer is this: no one controls it, but everyone helps shape it.